Hello, my wonderful viewers, and welcome to another episode of Betty Adams Overanalyzes. Today we're going to take a look at Chapter 8 of Dorororon. Now, this is a delightful little chapter. It does some serious world building and character development, gives us some positive answers to some questions we had about some characters. But beyond that, this chapter is just a really, really good example of how to make realistic, flawed heroes without being dark and edgy. How to maintain that careful balance of wholesomeness and realism that makes for a compelling story. It also is an excellent example of how to avoid the Narm. Now, I'm going to get into all of that. There will be a spoiler-free section and then a spoiler section. Right now we'll be in the spoiler-free section. So what am I talking about Narm? Well, there's a famous scene from a movie that's famous for being cheesy, where some guy gets injured or something and his arm goes numb, and he's supposed to be shouting numb arm, but it comes out as Narm. And it was so cheesy that Narm became the shorthand for overly acted, poorly executed dramatic scenes. And we all have that one favorite Narmy moment from a series where we just remember the Narm, the cheesiness, the overacting, the poorly acted script. And that is just not really something I've seen in this manga, even though it is a shonen manga aimed at a younger audience. It gets close, but it always manages to escape the Narm. And especially in this chapter, it's really well done. There is a bit of overacting, but it's a deliberate part of the character who's overacting and therefore comes off as not Narm. And the other thing is, we have the sensation that these are real people. They have real fears. They have real reactions to seeing a giant monster right in front of them, but they're also still heroes. They're still trying to do their job. And that's a delicate balance, to show the fear, to show the instinct for self-preservation, but to still come out with your characters acting like heroes. And that chapter does this really well. And I'd like to get into the details of how it does that and some more details. So that's it for the spoiler-free section of this manga review. I'm going to give you a chance to click away, and to do that I'm going to tell you about my books. Humans Are Weird. I have the data, and Humans Are Weird, we took a vote. Available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Powell Books, Walmart, Kobo Books. Click the links below the video to get your copy. So, Chapter 8, spoiler section. Not to bury the lead, what we discovered this chapter was that, yes, there is something special about Dora's lack of supernatural energy. He's not just on the low end of the spectrum. There are a couple ways this could go. It could be that his supernatural energy is so powerful that it's beyond the ability of their test to detect. It could be that his supernatural energy is different from other supernatural energy. This chapter drops a hint where that it might be that because he was hit by the spike, he's developed an immunity, and he actually has pretty significant supernatural energy. What do I mean by that? All right, so we've got this big bad Mononoke whose signature move is shooting spikes out of its back, like one of those spiders that throws its spines out to defend itself. So yeah, this is a spider ox, a tarantula ox. Its thorax is full of, or is that its abdomen? I always get the thorax and the abdomen of arachnids mixed up. So I think it's cephalothorax on an abdomen on a spider. So abdomen. So this ox tarantula has an abdomen full of poisonous spines, and the spines stick in you and they paralyze you. But Dora was already struck with one as a child in the same attack that killed his mother. And Dora thinks that he may have a bit of immunity because he was struck before, because he built up a resistance to it. Now, Dora's mentor, the female samurai, is a little suspicious of this. She doesn't think that's quite how the way those spines work, but we don't know yet. Even in universe, they don't know enough about this particular Mononoke to say for sure that his spines don't work like that. So, one theory we're working with for Dora's lack of supernatural energy, or rather seeming lack of supernatural energy, is that he was poisoned by this Mononoke and it suppressed his supernatural energy. And the theory being he actually has significant supernatural energy, but he's basically having to work through the block in his system to get access to it. And maybe working with Kusanagi is allowing him to do that. Another theory is that Dora has like the opposite of the supernatural energy, whatever it is, and he can only access that while using Kusanagi as a channeler, because he does seem to be giving Kusanagi a power-up in the final chapter. But Mononoke also seem to eat the supernatural energy of humans, so maybe Dora is just straight up giving Kusanagi his life force. Who knows? It's hard to say at this point. But there's definitely some connection between Dora's lack of supernatural energy and this giant spider bull Mononoke. Now, about what I was talking earlier, about these realistic heroes. Let's just take the first scene, for example. You have a couple of cadets, and these cadets are not drawn as main characters. They're drawn at best as secondary characters. One looks like a coward, one looks like a villain. That's how they're drawn. But they're still doing their jobs. They're clearly terrified of this giant superclass Mononoke they're facing. They recognize it as the Mononoke that caused all the trouble before and killed so many of their more powerful comrades before. And they're both terrified. They're just like, the younger one is the coward-looking one's utterly paralyzed, and the villain-looking one is just freaking out. But they still do their jobs. The more aggressive villain-looking one tells the younger coward-looking one to go call for reinforcements and escort all the civilians to the shelters, just like the drills. So do their job, follow their orders, protect the innocent. And when push comes to shove, the villain-looking one does try to jump in and save an innocent civilian. He's way too slow, he can't do it, and she has to be saved by, what's her name? The main secondary character here, Dora's mentor. But still, this is a really, really excellent way to maintain the wholesome feel of a Shonen Jump manga without just going completely cheesy, good guys, bad guys. All of these samurai here are they're trying to do their best, but when faced with something that's going to kill them, they have realistic reactions. Jinchio herself, the main samurai lady, she is definitely not the perfect hero, even her hero face. So a classic hero has a big cheerful grin that calms everybody around them down. You see it in Western comics, it's Superman, that's Clark Kent smile. You have in My Hero Academia, you have basically every shonen main protagonist, if it's not a major thing that he has a scary looking face, has that cheerful smile. But again, I'm pronouncing her name wrong, I can never remember it. The main samurai, she doesn't have one. She has a very irritating smirk. If someone came at you with that smile, you'd ask them if they were constipated. So she's clearly not the best at this hero gig. She's a highly competent samurai, but she's not the traditional hero. She has her flaws, and the series makes a point of this. She's not just motivated by wanting to protect people. She has her own selfish motivations. She wants to advance her career. She has goals and motivations beyond just being a good person. She has selfish motivations, but she's trying. She tries to be polite and humble, tries and fails to some degree and succeeds to some degree with Dora and Kusanagi, and Dora is trying to do the same thing. Now, Kusanagi is sweet and pure and innocent and always manages to maintain his humility, and so the purest shonen character we're getting in this series is ironically the monster Mononoke, which is not that unusual for a Shonen Jump manga, for one of the monsters to be the best hero of the lot. Not only is Kusanagi humble and willing to state and willing to set his own pride and vengeance on the line, Kusanagi's also really, really good at communicating. He's able to see what he needs to say to phrase the situation in such a way to get the best cooperation out of the people around him. That's a really advanced people skill, and I'm really looking forward to see if the mangaka explores the fact that Kusanagi does have very advanced people communication skills, because you're not just born with those. You might be born with a predilection, but you have to practice them. Kusanagi has to have been in a situation where he was dealing with prideful creatures or people or mononoke, and where he had to talk his way into mutually beneficial resolutions. And I'm really looking forward to see if the mangaka will actually explore that, or if this is just an unspoken part of Kusanagi's character. So what do you think? Why does Dora seem to have a resistance to, as well as a complete lack of supernatural energy? Does it have something to do with the spike he was hit with as a child? Why does Kusanagi have such excellent people skills, and are we going to get that addressed in the series? Leave a comment below the video telling me what you think. Hit that like and subscribe button, and peace out, my wonderful viewers. Humans are weird. We took a vote, and humans are weird. I have the data. 2 books in a series of human absurdity. Go check out these short story collections. What will our little green friends think of us when we finally do make it to space? Find out the answer in 2 books of human absurdity. Humans are weird, we took a vote, and humans are weird, I have the data. Available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Kobo, and Google Play.